Hey guys, welcome to another podcast of the RoadMap podcast. I'm Mike Irvine. I'm with Holly Newton today. We are thrilled you guys are joining us. I'm super excited about today's podcast with Holly. She is absolutely crushing it. Holly, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks, Mike.
Awesome, awesome. Welcome to the podcast. Super excited to have you. Kind of want to know right off, like, kind of your journey here through FFL. How did you find out about it? What were some of your
Oh,
reservations, or was it just like, yeah, I'm all in? What was that kind of like getting into it and kind of hearing about it for you?
okay. So I found, well, I think I've always known a little bit about FFL. A lot of like our mutual friends started this job, and of course, you're a warm market, you recruit your friends. So a lot of my college friends started doing FFL, and I just kind of watched from a distance for a couple years. I was doing my own little thing, and then it wasn't until our family moved from Kentucky to California, I began to get really interested in what this FFL thing was. Um, of course, 2020, we don't know how crazy that was. We moved from a fairly cheap cost of living type of state to a very expensive state, middle of the pandemic. Um, I was pregnant at the time. So after I had my son, I was really, really, really wanting to start working again, just to help the family out and things like that. So I reached out to a couple girls I knew in FFL, and they told me pretty much everything terrible about it and everything good about it. And then I told them, okay, I'm ready to start. What do I need to do? Because at that point, inflation was really, really high, and it was just getting ridiculous. So I was ready to get to work right away. So that's kind of how I heard about FFL, and I got started. Officially started, I think, January 2021 after I got through contracting and everything.
Love it. So, what was your first 90 days like? Did you hit the ground running, or was there kind of like some ups and downs? What was that first kind of 90 days like for you?
Well, I hit the ground. I don't know if I was running, but I was trying to run. So you buy your leads for your county, and so my county here, it's just so massive. I was driving everywhere. I was driving, to Palm Springs. I was an hour away. Then I was driving to Temecula, 2 hours away, and I can only fit like 3 4 appointments in a day, and maybe even four was max. So I was driving hours between appointments. Gas was almost $10 a gallon. It was getting
Wow.
really, really crazy. So if I had like a day of no shows, I mean, I was just filling up my tank a couple times and not really getting any show for it. But the few people I did sit with, I was able to close them. So I knew I was able to do this job as long as I just kept working and showing up. I was able to make things happen. But I called my upline and I said, hey, I want to keep doing this, but I am wasting so much time on the road. I'm driving hours, hours every day, getting home really late. If I had a day of no shows, I mean, it was just a complete waste of time. So she said, well, why don't we switch you to telesales and you just work from home? And I said, I love it. So I immediately stopped driving around all over California and then went straight to telesales and immediately saw the difference
Love it.
just by making that switch.
What was that
So my first
transition
90
like?
days were tough only because I was wasting so much time driving. The transition, it was so easy. I mean, it didn't, like, within a day. I was just calling my leads, staying home, making my appointments and my sales. I was able to finally do more than 4 appointments a day, which is, terrible. You don't want to do less than four a day. So I was finally able to book, five, six, seven. I kept getting better the more I was doing it. I was able to fill my day full of appointments, and the transition was just so much simpler. I was able to just get all my work done sitting at a desk. I don't have to go anywhere at all. And the transition was just so easy. I loved it.
Love it. Um, so obviously you had that transition, right? Obviously that was more 2022 that you really kind of fully went, virtual. So what was the obviously you're crushing it this year. You protected over 100 families in 3 months. You're like one of our top three producers on Inception. So what's the difference between the start of this year and kind of last year? What's led to this explosion in the amount of business you're writing right now?
Um, I think part of it was I wasn't really confident when I first started. I had no idea what sales were. I didn't know how to talk to a client professionally. I never dealt with, stuff like this before. Like my previous careers was just dealing with kids, working as a teacher, nanny, and things like that in a school. Of course, I helped parents and things like that, but like I never dealt with a client professionally. And I didn't quite understand how to communicate. I was really, really struggling in home, but there was just one thing I knew how to do, and that was to help people. And so I just really tried my best. I'm sitting in front of this couple, and I have a product that will change their life.
Yeah.
So if I can just help them get it, then I knew I was doing the absolute best I can. And, over time, I just kept getting better. The things became more natural to say in home and things like that. So it took a while to really take off. And I would say, I think by the end of last summer, I was really getting confident in what I was doing. I was starting to see more progress. It was helping my confidence when I was seeing more progress, more sales come in. And then after that, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to up my lead spin. I'm going to put more effort into this than what I was doing before. And from then on, I just kept growing rapidly, I would say.
Yeah. I love because I think that's a big piece that a lot of new agents miss is actually helping the client, right? Instead of saying, oh, here's this great
Mhm.
product, how can I actually help the
Yeah.
client? And when you can kind of bring
Mhm.
some of that emotion and really try to truly help a client, I think that is a really, the
Mhm.
client feels that. Instead of being
Yeah.
stressed that you haven't made a sale in a couple of days, it's just, okay, how can I help the next client? How can I
Mhm.
truly protect
Yeah.
them? And I love how that, because again, I think when you change your mindset to that, along with obviously sitting with more people, that's a big key to agents starting to have that consistent success. So that's awesome. Um, Obviously you wear a lot of hats, right? You're a mom,
Mhm.
you're a wife, you're pastor's wife, right? You wear a lot of different hats, plus being a business owner now,
Yeah.
right? So what is that like? How do you juggle all of that in your schedule and still write at such a high production level?
Well, like you said, I do wear a lot of hats. I'm constantly busy. I mean, there's some weeks where I can only work maybe 2 or 3 days because we have a lot going on at our church. For example, Easter a couple weeks ago, I was only able to work one day, because we're prepping for a really big Sunday, things like that.
Yeah.
I got things I do with my kids. I'm just really busy in general. So what I really, 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 really try to do is make sure I manage my time very, very well. I don't put anything on my calendar that I know is going to prevent me from having a successful week. I try to move things around to plan out, far in advance. Like if we're going to take a trip, it's like, well, we're not doing anything until I, make this goal or whatnot. So I'm very intentional with my time. During the week, I map out everything I have to do for church, everything I have to do with my kids, everything I have to do, helping my husband and whatnot. And then I fill in all the empty slots for FFL so I can have 28 to 30 appointments a week. So I have to be very intentional with my time. I have a nanny that comes in every day to watch my kids for me. And the moment she walks in the door, I'm walking to my office so I can stay focused until it's time for her to leave at the end of the day. If I have to make up extra work, I'm waking up early in the morning, do extra dialing or do an early morning appointment. If I have to maybe run on a Saturday evening, I'll do some appointments on a Saturday evening, whatever it takes for me to still fill in what I need to do for my business and still make time for my family and for, the ministry that we have too as well. So as far as being organized, I write everything I have to do per hour every single day. So I know, okay, so I have, 10 slots today. I got this and this going on with church. So I'm going to have 10 appointments in this time frame. I make those goals because at the end of the week, what I don't produce, that's on me because I didn't manage my time well. So I'm very, very strict with my time.
Yeah. So the two things that stuck out to me there is obviously you're extremely disciplined, right? And you're extremely intentional about what you're doing, right? I think that's a lot of times an agent come in and maybe want to work 2, 3 days a week, but they're not going to be consistent with their schedule. They're not going to be disciplined. They're not going to be intentional about it. So they're going to try to do what you do, but without having that structure. So I think that's really key because a lot of times I think you have a lot of moms and a lot of people that work limited schedules that again watch and they're like, I don't know if I can do this, but I think like you, if they're extremely intentional and they're disciplined with their time, I think that is what can lead success. And I think that's what's so great about our industry, that it doesn't discriminate, right? It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, right? As long as you're willing to put in the work and be extremely disciplined with your time, I think that's a big key for someone to be able to come in and kind of duplicate what you're doing, right? I think that's the great thing about our group is, and everything that we do here is that it's very duplicatable, right? We're not doing anything. I'm not doing anything crazy. You're not doing anything crazy, right? We're just sticking to the system, which is so great because again, it's if you know, you didn't have years of sales experience before you got here, right? This is pretty much your first thing to be considered sales, right? And it just you just followed the the process that was in place, and it led to success for you. So that's awesome. Um, Obviously, going into 2023, what are some of your goals this year, both personal, team building? What does that look like for this year?
Well, yeah, so I really want to make Hall of Fame by the end of the year, hopefully
Yeah,
by Thanksgiving. I really
love
want
it.
to hit that goal. I believe I'm sort of on track for that. I did take a couple of weeks off at the beginning of the year to go on a 2-week missions trip. But, end of the year, I want to hit Hall of Fame for my family. One of my goals this year was to buy a house for our family. When we moved to California, we had to depend on the church for housing, and we just didn't want that long term. So, actually, we're going to close on our house next Thursday,
Love
which
it.
is incredible that I was able to do that for my family. That was one of my goals, and I didn't think it would happen until later this year. And, it was just incredible how things kind of played out for us. Another goal is to have a team. This convention, I was able to bring four or five people to convention, and I want to triple that for next year. I want to be able to build a team and have agents doing the same thing I'm doing.
Yep.
Moms, single people. I mean, it doesn't matter. I want everyone to have the same opportunity that I got to have through this job and help my family and the people I love through this. And I want to be able to give more people that opportunity to do that as well.
Yeah, that's super exciting. Able to buy a house, especially in California. Houses aren't
Oh
cheap
my,
over there, so that's
it
amazing that you're
is.
able to do that. With this opportunity here. So that is super
Mhm,
exciting. Obviously, looking to build a team. Um,
mhm,
with that, if someone wants to work with you, right? Because I think the great thing about this business is different people relate to different people, right? So
mhm.
if you're a single mom on here and you want to work with Holly, how do they get in contact with you?
They can email me. My email is Newton Holly, and that's HOLLY .ffl@gmail.com. That'll be the best way to get hold of me.
Perfect. And you're on Facebook and Instagram as well, right? They can look you up
Yeah,
there as well. Okay.
Facebook, Instagram. Instagram is Danielle Holly Newton. Facebook Holly Newton.
Awesome. Well, Holly, I appreciate you
Mhm,
jumping on today. I hope the viewers hope they gathered a lot. Obviously, you're crushing it. So
mhm.
it was definitely. I always learned a lot every time I talk with you. So I'm super appreciative of you jumping on. And any parting shots that you want to shout out before we jump off?
Um, well, sure. When you do this job, you have to be super, super disciplined, like we talked about with your time. And, a lot of people think this job is like a luxury. You can work as little as you want and make as much as you want. But that's not necessarily true. There's not a job in this world that pays you for doing absolutely nothing. You have to work. And when you put in the work, you will see the results. And that's something that I learned very, very, very from the very beginning is you have to work hard. I thought I could just hop on, make a few dials, make a several $1,000s, but that's not necessarily true. You need to be intentional with your day and work, 8 to 4 every day, sometimes earlier, sometimes later, depending if I need to make up extra work because that's what my nanny does. She 8 to 4. Be intentional with your time and be extremely disciplined and rely on others. Like Mike, I called you so many times. Hey, what do I do with this? And I still text you and call you all the time with help with different things. You're constantly needing to grow always. And I don't feel like I've arrived as a life insurance agent. I'm constantly trying to figure out ways to better my presentation and better my tone and better everything that I'm doing or better my time management. So constantly make yourself grow and constantly work hard is what I would say
Love it.
to everybody.
Yeah, that's huge. Holly, appreciate you jumping on. It was a pleasure,
Mhm.
pleasure having you on. Guys, thanks for joining. This has been another podcast, the RoadMap podcast. Like, share, and come back next time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.